This is Daryl Evans with Kings Vision at LAKings.com with Kings insider John Rosen. Well, John, game one is in the books. The St. Louis Blues beat the Kings in overtime by a score of 2-1. But I think when you look at the game, not necessarily the best game the Kings have played, and yet despite that, they put themselves in a position where they still had a good chance to win that one. Your take on last night's game?
Well, Jonathan Quick was outstanding. It's what we've seen from Jonathan from really much of the second half of the season, late in April onwards. That's an encouraging sign for the team. Also, St. Louis missed a couple nets. They had a couple deflections that went a little bit wide. For a little bit, when it was that 1-0 game in the third period, you're thinking, is this going to be the same LA Kings team that we saw last year that pulled out all those wins? Or that team last year didn't really have to fight from behind in too many games. But in the end, the team that deserved to win the game won the game, and it was set up by a terrific hustle play by Alex Steen, who was the best forward on the ice, the next best player on the ice with Jonathan Quick, and he pressured Quick into making one of his few, really his only mistake of the game. The Blues deserved the victory. Jonathan Quick almost stole one for LA.
Yeah, I thought Jonathan Quick was outstanding throughout the course of the game. Unfortunate the way that things ended for him. But you go back to the beginning of the game, the St. Louis Blues, they came out. They were on a mission right from the get-go. They were very physical. Their best line and their most effective line, I thought, was their fourth line with Reeves. He did an outstanding job. He had a game-high 9 hits. That line, through 60 minutes of play, had 18 of the 33 hits by the Blues, and it was a tough group for the Kings to contain.
Absolutely, especially in the first period, that line was able to set the tone. You saw the hit that Ryan Reeves had. I believe it was on both Brad Richardson and Jordan Nolan in one shift, and he saw a little bit of swagger as he went back to the bench after that shift too. The Blues seemed to feed off of that, and really you expected the Blues to come out with a big push in the beginning, especially considering the way that this season series, really the last year and a half, has gone. But they were able to sustain that really for about 55 minutes. Then once Jonathan Quick made a couple more big saves late in that third period, one on a partial contested breakaway by David Backes in that game, the Kings began to feed off of that a little bit. And again, you started getting those inklings. Maybe this could be the Kings game after all. But again, that push by the Blues, that physicality, they were able to play with the lead for 52 minutes, 30 seconds in that game, I believe. So this was or 50 minutes and 30 seconds, excuse me. It was the longest a Kings opponent had played with a lead in the playoffs since Game 1 of the Detroit series in 2001. Game 2, excuse me. So, they played with a lead. It was something that was good for St. Louis, that they were able to play with a little bit of confidence for the majority of the game last night.
And I thought as the game went on late in the third period there, the Kings started to show a little bit of that life and the type of team that we're accustomed to watching in the Kings. Justin Williams had a great goal out there to tie things up in the dying seconds. And then in overtime, I thought the Kings controlled the pace of the game. They set the tempo. They outshot St. Louis, outchanced them. And then a golden opportunity came when they had that 4-minute power play. Unfortunately, the power play last night, they only had a couple of opportunities. They only got onto their second one. And then it's now 4 games without a power play goal. I know there's no need to push the panic button or anything like that, but I think this is an area where the Kings are going to have to excel at. There's not going to be a lot of power plays through the course of the series, but I think specialty teams, and it proved to be the difference in last night's game, you definitely have to bear down on those situations.
Daryl, you're absolutely right. You were right when you said that yesterday, too. Last night, in the 3 NHL games, there were 10 total goals scored. Only 2 goals were scored in 5-on-5 play. There were 5 power play goals scored in the 3 games last night. You look at LA, and even though they didn't have a power play goal in the last 4 games, I still look back to that San Jose game, and it's really not that representative of anything. It was the last regular season game of the year. But I thought that the way that they pushed the play, the way that they moved without the puck, the way that they operated the power play with speed was very encouraging heading into this series. St. Louis also a team with very good special teams as well. They have a strong penalty kill generally, as has been a staple of their team recently. But you need to get a power play goal, especially considering the fact that the Kings were outscored in even strength in the month of April. So LA, absolutely, you get that 4-minute power play in overtime. I'm not sure if there is any type of natural lull that sits in, knowing that you're about to be on the power play for 4 minutes. LA unable to set the play up, and then 41 seconds into that power play, Alex Steen makes that great hustle play and scores a game winner.
And you talked about St. Louis, their penalty kill in particular. You go through the month of April, they only allowed 3 goals on 40 penalties, and that's including the game played last night. So the Kings power play, when it comes time, they're going to have to execute. Kings will make a few adjustments. I don't think there's any reason to panic for the Kings. I think it was a little bit of a wake-up call. I think not that they were surprised by the way St. Louis performed, but I thought possibly we may have seen the best game of the series by the St. Louis Blues. Now it's the Kings' chance to an opportunity to adjust and get ready for Game 2. We'll get back to you there tomorrow morning after the pregame skate. Thanks, John, and Game 2 should be a good one.
I'm excited to see how they respond. It's going to be interesting. Looking forward to getting a couple quotes from these guys. Thank you, Daryl.
All right, this is Daryl Evans along with John Rosen with Kings Vision at lakings.com.